Yeah, bro. Social media is powerful, very, very powerful. So people expecting crazy ROIs and stuff, it just shows their lack of experience. Ultimately, it's one of those things, and that's why in development you can never really get all of your costs accurate from day one. This is gonna be ready in literally a few weeks. That's pretty much it. So these types of deals, I'm looking at another one in Nottingham. I'm probably gonna take on. The purchase price is around 140,000. The refurb costs are gonna be around the same, but the end value on that one is gonna be more because the rents are stronger with the one I'm looking at. So I'm looking to take on at least another 2 to 3 of these. Thank you. Yeah, you can go first.
How did you end up finding these investors? Just off of social media?
What the investors that gave me the money,
Yeah.
bro? Social flipping media, bro. Social media. That, whoa, I say social media. It's not like they came all directly from it. So a couple of them I already knew,
Okay.
but the fact that I was documenting what I was doing, they had been watching it and they were like, "Raw, like I really like what you're doing." Like I remember there was one of my first ever investors, right?
Yeah.
She basically reached out saying like, "Oh hey, like I saw people in your industry talking about how they raise funds and stuff, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I haven't seen you request any type of funding, but I wanted to see if it's something that you do." Then I was like, yeah, it is. We had a conversation, and she became one of my first ever investors off the back of that. So yeah, it's just about documenting, because the more you document and the more you put yourself out there, people feel like they know, like, and trust you.
Okay, yeah.
And the more people feel like they know you, like you, and trust you, bro, the easier it is to get them to invest in you. It's harder to invest in someone that has no type of presence whatsoever, unless it's people like your family members or people you know. Those are the people that are gonna likely be your first investors. But even it makes it easier for them to invest in you when they see what you're doing, you know. So yeah, bro, social media is powerful, very, very powerful.
No introduction needed, but girls still ask what my name is, trying to pretend they don't know who see us. Like,
How long do people usually stay in a HMO like that?
Very, very, very good question. So typically with HMOs, you're looking at 6 months minimum. Ideally, you want them to stay as long as possible because that reduces turnovers. It reduces the amount of like tenant finding fees and stuff that you have to pay.
Oh yeah, for letting agents.
Say that again.
So you're letting agents.
Exactly, exactly.
So is there? So usually when they sign a contract to live here, they would they would sign for 6 months minimum.
Yes, they would sign for 6 months minimum, and the reason why we put on suites and stuff like that because it increases the likelihood of tenants staying for longer. So you can imagine in a house where you have to share a bathroom, share
Oh
everything.
yeah, they get fed up quickly.
Exactly, like you're
Quarrels,
less
okay.
likely to stay. But if you have your own space, you like it, you enjoy it, like you've got a good quality accommodation, you're likely to stay for longer periods of time, and that's the goal with these types of properties. You want people to stay for as long as possible.
Um, so if somebody signs a contract to stay for 6 months, but they they go back on it and they say they don't want to stay for 6 months anymore, maybe 3 months into their stay, would they still have to pay the rent for the next 3 months or
I mean,
for breaching contracts?
legally they're liable, but that's where even now landlords are just umming and ahhing because tenants tend to have more rights than the actual landlords, and it's hard to enforce stuff, you know. So yeah, it's just one of those. Like
It's a grey area.
yeah, like it's difficult to actually enforce. Like you can't really force someone to pay, and that's why the tenant checks at the start have become so strict and stringent because landlords don't want tenants that are rubbish.
How would you run a tenant check?
Bro, this is a bunch of stuff. This is stuff that I don't involve myself with because I can't be bothered. But it's things like referencing, guarantors, that type of stuff.
Would you pay someone to do that
Oh,
for you or
100%.
business? Okay.
And that's why you get a management agent. So if you don't want to go through that headache and that hassle, you just hire a managing agent. You pay them their fee, and that's their job. That's their responsibility.
Expensive.
10%. So 10% of the gross rent.
Okay. But the 10% is worth it because it's
Yeah, I mean, if it,
stabilizing.
yeah, a very good lettings agent, management agent is worth it. Now, when it comes to scale, so when, let's say if I develop like 50 houses in this area and I've got a bunch of properties, at that level, it makes sense to bring things in-house. But when you're starting out, it's just best to outsource so you're not, doing so many different things and spreading your energy thin. But a lot of developers that I know, obviously they'll start out using management agents, but if they stick in the same area, develop in the same area and build a good portfolio in the area, oftentimes they end up just building out a management agency themselves.
Okay.
So that they can look after their own stock for a lower cost, and then as a means of earning more money, they can start to manage other people's properties as well.
Okay.
So, but I'm not going down that route. If I'm being honest, I'll just use agents and then I'll make money in other ways.
While this one's being worked on, you're not taking any tenants for the other one, even if the other one's finished, because.
No, to be fair, we can start to advertise and rent it. Yeah, we'll start to advertise and rent it. So my plan is get the surveys booked for around mid-April ish, around there. Once the surveys are booked and done, we can get the mortgage because the survey will determine how much the properties are worth. Once you've got that, we can get mortgage offers. So probably gonna go with Shawbrick. They're like they're the biggest like commercial type of lender that lends on these types of houses. Oh yeah, it's the same exact layout as next door. We're gonna go with a slightly different color scheme. Slightly different color scheme than next door.
You said at the start, if I'm right, that you're probably earning about 20k in this. So when do you think you're going to break even on the?
What do you mean by break even?
So if you leave 20k, technically, doesn't that mean you're 20k down from when you actually started?
No, not really. So if you look at it like this, if we were to sell it, right, the profit would be, I think, like 90 grand or something.
Okay.
So there's no, if you're talking about actual terms of breaking even means that you don't make any money. But in this case, we've created however much worth of equity, and it's rare. Like you only get deals where you pull out every single penny once in a while. Like those deals are extremely rare. Okay. But with leaving £20,000 in, you've got to think about it like this: how much is the property cash flowing? This is going to cash flow £1,000 a month. So if you look at it from an ROI perspective, return on investment, you're generating £1,000 a month. Times that by 12, that's £12,000. £12,000 divided by £20,000, the amount of money left in, that's an ROI of over 50%, which is very high. So that's a good deal. Okay. You've always got to look at the return on investment.
And when do we mark the return on investment in terms of like a year?
Yeah, it's always done on a year. So it's just your return on your investment within a year, pretty much. So the return meaning how much do you take home?
Okay.
And then the investment meaning how much money you've invested or how much money you've left in the house in this case.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is more like a 12. This is not something that if someone was coming to make a quick flip on their money or a faster flip on their money per say 6 months, this is not what you'd recommend for the person.
Yeah, people that are after quick returns and stuff, I just told them to just fuck off and go to crypto and stuff like that, man. Like this property isn't going to get you that. Like I speak to a lot of investors that have stupid expectations and it's like I just told them that, look, I just can't give you that, like properties, it requires a different mentality. Like it's not get rich quick. You know, like it's safety pretty much.
Okay, stabilized income.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So people expecting crazy ROIs and stuff, it just shows their lack of experience. Because even me, before I jumped into property, I was saying like, yeah, buy a house, make 100,000, blah blah blah, whatever. And yeah, you can make that type of money, but you can't expect it with every single project.
Okay.
And the sooner you accept that, the further you'll go. Because one of the things that slowed me down was only trying to look for the properties that would make me £1 million, you know, and those rarely come about. So the sooner you get started with things that will make you a bit, the better you'll be.
Okay. What was the return on investment? I think you said 50%.
Yeah, well, I'd need to actually run a P&L when the final figures are done, because things can still arise. Costs can still.
What I meant was, you said when you spend £1, you should make back £1.
Oh, that's when it comes to a refurb. Yeah, so pretty much when you're spending money on a refurbishment, it has to make sense. Like, you don't want to spend money just to make nothing.
Okay.
So for every pound you spend, typically you want to make at least £1.50 or £2.
Okay.
Which is to say, if you spend 10 grand on the refurb, it should result in at least 15 grand worth of extra value on the back end.
Okay.
Yeah. So you've always got to think about, like, that's all it is in business, right? It's controlling costs, making as much money as possible. Is this money I'm spending earning me more money? If the answer is no, then don't do it. Like, you see some people, they extend the house, they add another bedroom, but it doesn't actually increase the value of the house by that much. So ultimately, why are you doing it?
Okay.
You know?
Rolls out, she dashing the lace, not seen her in days, can't make her an ex, she down to the bone, she drink it like Rays, back then crime pays,
How much did you initially put in to this house? Like, obviously you bought it for a set amount, but some of that was lended. So how much did you put in yourself?
Flipping out. Are you talking about how much I raised from investors, like private money to put into the dough?
Yeah.
I think it was about 120 grand. 120, maybe 130 once I factor in absolutely everything. Around about there. Yeah, so in order to complete, hold on, let me even just. Yeah, so when it came to completing, we needed about, I think it was 90 grand maybe. But then, in addition to funds needed to complete, so to purchase the property, you've got to pay other fees. You've got to pay your broker. You've got to pay your solicitors. You've got to pay the architects. You've got to pay, if you have planning fees, you've got to pay the planning fees. So there's lots of other fees that you have to include. And then after that, I got development finance, which pretty much just means a bank lends me the money needed to develop the properties. But before they release any money, you need to pay the builders a deposit. And rule of thumb is about 10%. In this case, I had to pay, you can imagine, 180 grand builds, that's £18,000. So that added extra money that I needed to get started with the project. And then I've also got to pay probably another 10 to 12 grand to furnish the place, which is money that I'd need to do the project.
And how much would investors expect back in a year?
That all depends on the agreement that you have with the investor.
Okay.
So certain people, they structure like joint venture type things where they actually buy the house with the investor, and that way they're almost business partners.
Okay.
And then the investor doesn't need a return really, because they're invested in the project, like they're part of the project. You've got private investors, so if I raise money from an investor and I'm paying them back within 12 months, the amount that I pay them depends on how much I agree with them. Typically it's around about 10% per year. And so if they give me 100 grand, within 12 months I need to give them back the 100 grand plus 10 grand on top.
Okay.
You see? So yeah, it just all depends though. All depends. It depends on the deal, how you structure it, and all of that good stuff. So overall, we should be able to pull out pretty much all of the money invested. Like there'll be, I think in one house we'll have around 20 grand left in, in the other.
What does that mean though? It's a bit confusing when you're talking.
Yeah. So pretty much, if you think about the money that you need to like purchase a property,
Yeah.
let's say I buy this for 120, I'm spending 50 grand on it just for argument's sake. Because I'm leveraging lending or finance, the amount of cash I put in might only be, let's say, like £70,000.
Okay.
So I've invested £70,000. I've financed the rest of it.
Yeah.
Now, when I increase the value and get the mortgage at the new value, that mortgage repays the lending that I got, and then it also gives me back some of the money that I invested.
So because the money is borrowed, there's you have to pay back more than you borrowed.
Naturally, yeah, finance
then,
costs.
So then usually you don't make back all of your money.
Exactly.
Okay. So even if you sell, so when you sell, how does that work then?
Selling is completely different.
Oh, okay.
Selling is completely different. But if you're keeping it, like in this example where I am keeping it,
Yeah.
I would finance it at the new value, so get a mortgage at the new value, pay back the person that lent me the money, and then any cash that I invested,
So when you make it a mortgage,
I get back as much as possible. But go on.
when you make it a mortgage, who gives you the money? I'm not getting it.
The mortgage lender.
Okay.
Yeah. So typically like this, we bought it, we use a bridging lender. It's different from a mortgage lender. Bridging lenders, they specialize in this type of stuff, short-term loans. They know that you're going to be in and out. Mortgage lenders, they're more long-term, so typically more than a year. And the mortgage lender will give you the money based on the new value once you've done the work, and that money is used to repay the bridging lender.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then you pay the mortgage lender back gradually.
Exactly, over time.
Okay,
Yeah, over time. That's it. This is the first studio room. This one here, rent-wise, is gonna make about £750 each month. So you can see the reason why this is classed as a studio is because of this area here, the kitchenette. And for it to be classed as a studio, it needs to be at least 14 square meters. So this here, 14 square meters. Yeah. It's on the smaller side of the spectrum when it comes to studio rooms, but for every studio, basically, you get more rent because it's considered as, like, if you think about it yourself, right? If you have a room with your own kitchen, it means that you don't have to like share kitchen with other people, and you're gonna pay more to have that like premium access.
Most people don't live in this.
Oh yeah. So this is its own self-contained unit, pretty much.
This is basically like a flat.
Exactly, like a mini one. Yeah.
There's multiple flats inside one house.
Yeah, but it's not an actual flat. It's just a room.
Okay, but
it's a
think
room.
that's a flat.
Exactly.
To the person who's buying it, they just see it as, okay, this is where I'm gonna live.
Yeah, but this isn't being sold, so I can't sell it as multiple units. It's still one house, but there's just multiple occupants in one house. Hence the name HMO, House of Multiple Occupants.
And these people don't know each other, they just.
Most of the time they don't. Yeah. Majority of the time they don't.
What kind of people live here? People that go to uni and stuff.
Yeah, we can target students, but I'm not going to. For a couple of reasons. The first one is that when you're targeting the student market, it needs to be timed correctly. So students typically look for properties in the summer. So like the summer months, May, June, July, August. That's when they sort themselves out, and then they move in around the end of September. This is going to be ready in literally a few weeks. Okay. So if I wanted to target students, I'd miss out on like 5-6 months worth of rent. And students tend to not look after the properties as well as working professionals as well. Bro, like me and my guys, bro, if you saw the state that we left the house in, it was not calm. But yeah, then this is the ensuite. It's a very compact one.
Yeah, very compact.
Very compact, bro. So you need to be slim. But yeah, so this is it.
This will be for somebody who's on a cheaper but on lower budget.
And that's the problem that HMO solves. So typically, in terms of affordability, you've got like flats and stuff, right? But with a flat, a person has to pay rent, then they have to pay bills, council tax, etc. So let's imagine rent on a flat might be like £700, right? They then have to pay bills, which can be like £200 a month, then council tax £100 a month, Wi-Fi, etc. So it easily gets very expensive. With a HMO, it's an all-in-one solution. So someone that's just graduated, they've started working, rather than having to pay rent, bills, this, that, and the third, they have a solution like this, right? And then all of their bills are included. So they're paying a flat fee of £750 a month. With that, they've obviously got their own kitchen, they've got bills included, they've got Wi-Fi.
Okay, and it never goes past 750. Okay, but let's say for instance, somebody, the occupants of the house are using, let's say, gas, electric, and it goes past you guys' expectations. Would you mark them up?
So it just depends on the landlord. What some people do is that they'll put kind of like a fair usage policy, right?
Okay, yeah,
So that
so from
they,
this amount to
they
this
don't take the piss, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So that's one way of doing it. Another way is just by having smart lights and stuff like that. So after, let's say if we were to walk in the corridor now, the lights automatically turn on, then when we leave, turns off. So it's like motion sensor stuff. When it comes to using actual electricity and whatnot, what you can do is have like a smart, it's almost like a smart meter whereby you can turn the heating off at certain times, make sure it comes on at a certain time and turns off at a certain time. So it just all depends. There's multiple ways.
How's it going?
You're right.
Is there laws about how big?
Yeah. There's a lot of HMO laws and regulations, a hell of a lot. So you see, like here, these types of lights, it's because it needs to meet the fire regs is what they call it. So all of that type of stuff that you see, this as well, this is just to make it HMO compliant and licensable. Because bro, like councils, they try to crack down on like rogue HMO landlords and HMOs that aren't fit to be HMOs pretty much. So yeah. Rule of thumb, for every £1 you spend, you want to make back at least £1.50 to £2. So
Is there someone that identifies for you if the house will, if let's say the stairs will affect how many rooms that you'll be able to build, or you just know how to do that? You gradually learn how to do that by eye yourself.
yeah, so at the start, I was working alongside architects a hell of a lot, right?
Okay.
Because they knew how to maximize space, right? And I didn't. So when I looked at this, I was like, how the hell can you get 6 rooms out of it? So then I spent time speaking to architects and then basically borrowing their brains. So they would basically just sit on a call with me and say like, cool, this is how we do it. This is what you need to look at. These are the things you need to consider. So I just went through that process time and time again to the point where after looking at so many different ones, I could do it myself now, you know? So I don't need to speak to architects to figure out how many rooms I can get typically. But on more complex stuff, I still do. And when I'm taking it a step further, I still need to speak to architects anyway, because they need to come out to the property, kind of do like a survey, measure the roof height, see if the head height is sufficient, stuff like that. But for the most part, when I'm just filtering through properties, I can do it myself. Yeah. But it's all like experience and doing it. Now you probably wouldn't be able to, but as we're having these sessions and I'm explaining to you my thought process, you'll start to think like, oh, okay, so I can map out this and this is how much space I need to account for and so on and so forth. So it just comes with repetition.
Did you run into any problems that you didn't foresee after you bought the property?
So increased spend is one thing. The delay, basically what this is very common with builders. What happened was the refurb follows a sequence. So it's like A, B, C, D, E kind of, and you can't go to step D without doing step C or step B. And what happened was We had the plumbers. They had to do the new plumbing work, the pipe work. They call it first fix, but because the plumbers didn't turn up when they were meant to, it pushed the schedule out of frame pretty much. So we couldn't get to step D because the plumbers hadn't done step C yet.
Okay, fair enough.
So it pushed down like the time frame of the entire job out by about 2 weeks. But we made up for some time because the people that were doing step D and E, they ended up doing it faster. But that was a cause for concern at the time because we're on a strict time frame with this one.
Okay.
Very strict time frame. I don't know if you know about like Article 4 or if you've heard of it.
Really, I heard of it in your video as well.
Yeah. So what that is think of it like a rule, right, that councils can implement. Now, as landlords, so people that own properties, we have natural permitted development rights. So we can pretty much do things to the house without having to involve the council. And one of those rights is being able to convert a house into something like this, a HMO. Now, what Derby Council done is they implemented, Article 4.
But you don't have to do a certain area.
Exactly. So what they've done is that they've removed that permitted development right, which pretty much just means that landlords now need to consult them and get planning permission, is what they call it, if they want to convert a house to a HMO.
Is it only certain cities that implement this?
Yeah. So you've got it. It's widespread in areas like London. It's in Leicester.
Is it all the main cities?
Typically, it's in all of the cities that have a major university,
Okay.
and the reason why is because landlords typically would convert houses into student HMOs. Because from a landlord's perspective, it's like, why would I rent this house out to one person when I can split it up room by room, rent it out to multiple people and earn more money? So when that happens too much, the councils don't want an oversaturation of HMOs. And by implementing Article 4, you restrict people from being able to create new HMOs, which gets rid of the problem.
So although the council done something that maybe scared away some landlords, because we did it in a place where it's needed and where HMOs are needed, landlords still decide to stay there instead of going somewhere else that could be more, that have less room.
Yeah, so HMOs will always be needed, right? Because it solves a fundamental issue in the housing market. But it becomes a problem when there's an oversaturation. And in areas of Article 4 is there because there was an oversaturation.
Would council not like it because, let's say, the people that buy HMOs, they're not particularly the richest people, they don't have the best jobs?
It has nothing to do with that. It's literally just, think about it like this, right? In a typical community, you've got different types of people. You've got young people, you've got old people, you've got families. Now, if every single house is being converted into a HMO, where the family's going to live.
Okay.
And that's the problem. That's why they don't want an oversaturation. Like 1 or 2 here and there is fine because you're effectively increasing the amount of habitable accommodation in a community, but it becomes an issue when too many people are doing it because it reduces the amount of family homes available. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's ultimately why.
So even if it was none of your fault, you told the builder what to do, you gave him clear instructions, you have proof of the clear instructions.
Because ultimately, it's one of those things, and that's why in development you can never really get all of your costs accurate from day one because things always happen, especially a build of this magnitude when you're doing so much structural work and extension work like this. It's hard to get the cost accurate from day one.
Okay.
And that's why you must always have a contingency.
Okay.
Which is rule of thumb 10%.